Now we will do action of alkali on certain metals. Today our topic is action of alkalis on certain metals. Now here we will take metal, reacted with alkali, it will found or it will give its corresponding salt and hydrogen gas is liberated. Now certain metals are there, for example zinc, aluminium, lead. They all react with hot, concentrated, caustic alkalis, that is caustic soda and caustic potash. Now we will explain it through the example. Metal, when reacted with alkali, it will give rise to its corresponding salt and hydrogen gas is liberated. First we will take zinc. Now zinc is reacted with hot and concentrated sodium hydroxide and hot and concentrated potassium hydroxide. Hot and concentrated, what is used? Hot and concentrated. Now here special salt is formed, that is sodium zincate. Sodium zincate is sodium zincate. Sodium zincate is colorless. In addition to it, hydrogen is formed. And when zinc react with potassium hydroxide, then potassium zincate is formed. Potassium zincate. Potassium zincate is also colorless. In addition to it, hydrogen gas is liberated. So here when zinc react with sodium hydroxide, sodium zincate is formed, which is colorless. In addition to it, hydrogen gas liberated. Similarly, when zinc react with hot and concentrated potassium hydroxide, then potassium zincate is liberated, which is also colorless. In addition to it, hydrogen gas is liberated. Now I will balance the equation. Now next metal we will use here is aluminium. Now here aluminium reacts with boiling caustic alkali solution. And aluminium reacts with boiling caustic alkali solution. Now here I have taken aluminium, then sodium hydroxide plus water. Similarly, I have taken here aluminium, potassium hydroxide and water. It will give rise to sodium meta-aluminate plus hydrogen. Here it will form potassium meta-aluminate plus hydrogen. Sodium meta-aluminate. It is colorless. Here potassium meta aluminate. Now balance the equation. Aluminium reacts with sodium hydroxide plus water. It will give rise to sodium meta aluminate, which is colorless, and hydrogen gas is liberated. Now we will balance the equation here. Here we have taken aluminium. It reacts with potassium hydroxide plus water. Potassium meta aluminate is formed and hydrogen gas is liberated. Now we'll balance the equation here. Now aluminium, it reacts with fused alkali. Aluminium reacts with fused alkali. It produces sodium aluminate and hydrogen gas is liberated. It produces sodium aluminate and hydrogen gas is liberated. Here's fused alkali is used. When aluminium, it reacts with fused alkali, sodium aluminate is formed and hydrogen gas is liberated. Now lead. Reaction of reaction with lead. Lead. When lead react with sodium hydroxide and when lead react with potassium hydroxide. When lead react with sodium hydroxide, it forms sodium plumbite and hydrogen. It forms sodium plumbite, which is colorless. And when lead react with potassium hydroxide, it forms potassium plumbite. It forms potassium plumbite. Potassium plumbite is also colorless. In addition to it, hydrogen gas is liberated. When lead reacts with sodium hydroxide, sodium plumbite is formed, which is colorless, in addition to hydrogen gas liberated. Similarly, when lead reacts with potassium hydroxide, then potassium plumbite is formed, which is colorless, and hydrogen gas is liberated. Now we'll balance the equation here. So here we have given different reactions with metals and alkali. We have reacted alkali with zinc, we have reacted alkali with aluminium, and at last we have reacted alkali with lead. Now we will do action of alkali on metal oxides. And oxide of metals are basic in nature. Oxide of metals are basic in nature. Now they dissolve in water, forming hydroxide. or we can say alkalis. Here is the equation. Na2O, that is sodium oxide, when reacts with water, it forms sodium hydroxide. Similarly, when K2O, that is potassium oxide, react with water, it forms KOH, that is potassium hydroxide. They are alkali. Now I will balance the equation here. Balanced, it is sodium oxide, this is potassium oxide. They are metallic oxide, they dissolve in water, they form hydroxide, or we can say alkali. These metals, oxide and hydroxide. Now these metals and hydroxide, they neutralize acid, but do not react with bases. These metal oxides and hydroxides, they neutralizes acid, but they do not react with bases. For example, metal oxide, metal hydroxide, they react with acid, form sodium chloride and water, and here again form sodium chloride and water. But there are few metallic oxide and hydroxide. There are few metallic oxides and hydroxides which exhibit dual character. Which means they show acidic as well as basic character. They show acidic as well as basic characters, and this nature is known as amphoteric nature. For example, zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide, it reacts with both acid as well as concentrated alkali, forming salt and water. Zinc hydroxide as well as zinc oxide as well as zinc hydroxide, it reacts with acid as well as base. Here zinc oxide react with acid to form zinc chloride and water. Zinc hydroxide react with acid to form zinc chloride and water, that is salt plus water. This is zinc oxide, react with hydrochloric acid, it forms zinc chloride and water. Similarly, zinc hydroxide react with acid to form salt and water. Salt is zinc chloride and water is formed. Now I will balance the equation here. Now here we have reacted zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide with acid, and now we will react zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide with alkali. With concentrated alkali. Zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide. They are reacted with concentrated alkali, that is sodium hydroxide. Now here special salt is formed. When zinc oxide react with sodium hydroxide, then sodium zincate and water is formed. And when zinc hydroxide react with alkali, then again sodium zincate and water is formed. Now I will balance the reaction here. It will form sodium zincate. The salt form is sodium zincate. So here zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide reacts with both acid as well as alkali. Such oxide is known as amphoteric oxide. ऐसे ऑक्साइड को क्या बोलते हैं? एम्फोटेरिक ऑक्साइड कहते हैं. So amphoteric oxides and hydroxides are those compounds which reacts with both acid and alkalis to form salt and water. So it is very important. Amphoteric oxide and hydroxide are those compounds which reacts with both acid and alkali to form salt and water. हमने एम्फोटेरिक ऑक्साइड एंड हाइड्रोक्साइड किया था. तो एम्फोटेरिक ऑक्साइड एंड हाइड्रोक्साइड आर दोज कंपाउंड विच रिएक्ट विद बोथ एसिड्स एंड एल्कली टू फॉर्म सॉल्ट एंड वाटर. तो अब हम कुछ एम्फोटेरिक ऑक्साइड एंड हाइड्रोक्साइड्स जो है उसका रिएक्शन एल्कली के साथ करेंगे और कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट सॉल्ट्स एंड सॉल्ट्स का फॉर्मेशन करेंगे. तो यहाँ पे जो एम्फोटेरिक ऑक्साइड ले रहे हैं वो जिंक ऑक्साइड एंड जिंक हाइड्रोक्साइड, एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड एल्यूमिनियम हाइड्रोक्साइड, लेड ऑक्साइड एंड लेड हाइड्रो ऑक्साइड. और जो एल्कली हम ले रहे हैं यहाँ पे हम एल्कली लेंगे सोडियम हाइड्रोक्साइड और दूसरा एल्कली जो हम यूज़ कर रहे हैं दैट इज पोटेशियम हाइड्रो ऑक्साइड. सो हियर you will see that we are taking amphoteric oxide and hydroxide. When it reacts with alkali, salt and water is formed. Understood? So first we will take lead oxide, PbO, and PbOH whole twice. Pb is reacted with NaOH and PbOH whole twice means lead hydroxide is reacted with sodium hydroxide. PbO is yellow in color. ठीक है, जब रिएक्शन होगा in both cases we will get sodium plumbite which is colorless and soluble. In addition to it we will get water. So here we will get sodium, this is sodium plumbite, this is also sodium plumbite. Both of them are colorless and soluble. Now we'll balance the equation. Okay. Now we will react lead oxide and lead hydroxide with another alkali, that is potassium hydroxide. Lead oxide is yellow. When it reacts with KOH, it forms potassium plumbite. Here also we will get potassium plumbite plus water. Now potassium plumbite it is colorless and soluble. Potassium plumbite, it is colorless and soluble. Now here we'll balance the equation. तो यहाँ पे आपने देखा कि हमने लेड ऑक्साइड और लेड हाइड्रोक्साइड का रिएक्शन सोडियम हाइड्रोक्साइड के साथ किया, तो हमें कौन सा सॉल्ट मिला? सोडियम प्लम्बाइड, जो कि सॉल्युबल है और कलरलेस है। ठीक है। सिमिलरली जब हमने लेड ऑक्साइड का और लेड हाइड्रोक्साइड का रिएक्शन पोटेशियम हाइड्रोक्साइड के साथ किया, तो भी हमें एक स्पेशल सॉल्ट मिला, दैट इज पोटेशियम प्लम्बाइट, जो कि कलरलेस है और सॉल्युबल है, और इसके साथ हमें क्या मिलेगा? वाटर। नाउ नेक्स्ट रिएक्शन इज with zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide. Zinc oxide is white in color. It is reacted with sodium hydroxide. Now we will get, here we'll get sodium zincate. We will get sodium zincate plus water. Sodium zincate is colorless and soluble. Sodium zincate. This is sodium zincate. Sodium zincate is colorless and soluble. We'll balance the equation here. Now again we will react zinc oxide and zinc hydroxide with potassium hydroxide. Zinc oxide is white in color. When reacted with potassium hydroxide, it forms potassium zincate plus water. It forms potassium zincate plus water. Now potassium zincate is, this is also potassium zincate. Potassium zincate है, colorless है, it is colorless and soluble. Potassium zincate is colorless and soluble. Now we'll balance the equation here. ठीक है। तो जब हम जिंक ऑक्साइड का जिंक ऑक्साइड एंड जिंक हाइड्रोक्साइड का रिएक्शन सोडियम हाइड्रोक्साइड के साथ करेंगे, तो हमें क्या मिलेगा? सोडियम जिंकेट, विच इज कलरलेस एंड सॉल्युबल. इन एडिशन टू इट वी विल गेट वाटर. सिमिलरली जब जिंक ऑक्साइड और जिंक हाइड्रोक्साइड का रिएक्शन पोटेशियम हाइड्रोक्साइड के साथ होगा, तो हमें क्या मिलेगा? पोटेशियम जिंकेट, विच इज़ colorless and soluble. In addition to it, we will get water. Next is aluminium oxide. जो next हम करेंगे वो क्या है? aluminium oxide. ये examination point of view से important है. Amphoteric oxide exam में आता है. Now we will do aluminium oxide and aluminium hydroxide. When aluminium oxide, which is white, is reacted with NaOH, and aluminium hydroxide, when reacted with NaOH, it gives sodium meta-aluminate. Sodium meta-aluminate and water. It gives sodium meta-aluminate. It gives sodium meta-aluminate plus water. Now we'll balance it. Now we will react aluminium oxide and aluminium hydroxide with another alkali, that is potassium hydroxide. That is potassium hydroxide. Aluminium oxide is white in color. In both the cases, we will get potassium meta-aluminate. Potassium meta-aluminate. And with it, water molecule is released. We will get potassium meta-aluminate. Understood? We will get potassium meta-aluminate. Now we'll balance it.